Hey folks, it's Tom. Somebody needs some car work. It's Tom, your frugal prepper. So I'm working on the Pontiac. Got her all tore apart again. But so the cheap Chinese gasket set may not have been the best idea. I may end up redoing the oil pan gasket as well. It's leaking. The main seal on the front leaking a little bit, and the cam towers were the main thing that were leaking. So let me show you what's going on. So in order to get the cam tower off, right, the cam towers bolt through the inner timing cover. So you have to take the outer timing cover off. Then you have to take the timing chain out. Take the timing sprockets off. You have to pin the camshafts, turn the engine 90 degrees so you won't hit any valves. Then you can take the cam sprockets off. Then once that's done, you have to get to the water pump, because the water pump is right down there. It bolts into the timing cover to run off the timing chain. However, this one bolt that's back here in this corner, you can't get to that unless you take the exhaust manifold off. So you have to take the exhaust off, take the manifold off, and then you can get to that bolt. Then you got to take 4 of the oil pan bolts off, because this bolts into the oil pan. Then you've got to take all the bottom bolts off the inner timing cover. Then you can peel this back, and then you can get that out. And then be ready with some towels right here when you pull this up, because this top cover usually won't come loose. It sticks pretty good. The bottom one will come loose, and then all the lifters will fall out. So you put like a towel here or something. You don't want them falling all over the ground. Like I dropped 2 of them, so but they're okay. So you can see where this has been leaking oil in here. There's some antifreeze here too. That's from that hose that dripped in here, but yeah, that's what you run into when these leak. And then it also, of course, drips out the back here, and will get on the exhaust manifold and start smoking. So this is I assembled this engine. It sat for almost 2 years before I got it actually in and running. But this is at 5,000 miles roughly. So this engine has 5,000 miles on it. We have complete failure of these cam tower gaskets. So I bought the cheapest Chinese gasket set I could find on eBay for this, which I've had good luck with them in the past on other stuff. But these, I remember when I saw them, were super nice and pliable. They're hard now. This was more pliable, and it's just like not. Now it's kind of a metal gasket, and it's just not, doesn't feel good. So they were just leaking like crazy. So I had bought the Felpros. I got them stuck away up above my head here. The Felpro gasket sets for them that should be a little better. I'm going to go ahead and replace that front main seal here, which looked like it was leaking at the bottom. I'll go ahead and put a Felpro in there. This timing cover gasket here was fine. It wasn't leaking. And then at some point, I think I'm going to end up doing the oil pan. So luckily, the oil pan is not a hard job to do on these, really. It'll come right out the bottom. So I even have since I hit stuff on a regular basis and have taken out the oil pan before on those, we've got a spare oil pan right up there in the corner. But so I'm just gonna get this done. And so this started because the AC is not working, because the seals going to the compressor didn't seal. So I want to fix the AC, and I'm, you know what, I don't want it smoking. And so here we are. But I'll just try to get this done. I got this tore down mostly last night, and then see if I can't get these gaskets changed and get it kind of put back together tonight, and maybe wrap it all up tomorrow. So there you go. Like I've had really good luck with a lot of the Chinese gasket sets in the past working on stuff. They seem to work fine. These cam towers are just notorious for having leaking problems. So going with the cheap Chinese gaskets might not have been the best thing. The other problem that I ran into here too is the book does not call for Loctite on these bolts, but I was told Loctite these bolts because they will work loose and people will over tighten them and they'll end up stripping the threads out of the head to try to get them to stop leaking. I've seen that before. So I put good high temp Permatex Loctite on the front, but then I ran out. And so when I got to the rear, and I was like, oh, I got some of this Harbor Freight red Loctite, where all those bolts on that rear one worked their way loose. But the rear one was leaking a lot worse, but the front one was also leaking. So good Permatex high temp Loctite, like get the good stuff and get the good gaskets on these, I think is probably the way to go. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. This is Tom, the Frugal Prepper. I'll give you a quick walk through the garden here. Peppers, I got some little peppers growing here on the banana peppers. They're happy little plants. Boy, this eggplant sure just isn't happy. I'm gonna keep watering it and feeding it and see what happens. Almost looks like it wants potassium. I'm not sure. My first time actually trying to grow an eggplant. We'll see. So this is summer squash. This one was planted 2 weeks later than that one, because when that one starts to get powdery mildew, pull it, then that one will come out 2 weeks later, but then I'll plant another seed there, which will grow by the time that one comes out. I rotate them like that. These are tobacco plants. Kentucky burlap in the middle, 2 Virginia blends. Onions, they need weeded. Just been busy. Potatoes, pretty growing like crazy. There are some beetles and stuff in here. There were some aphids on them, but ladybugs have started showing up in the garden, so that'll take care of itself. But they're growing so fast and hard that I don't think it's gonna, you can lose up to 30% of your foliage and you're not really gonna hurt anything. So I think they'll be fine. But they're getting big. Green beans here. Some of the other ones are starting to germinate and take off that I replanted. But I'm just gonna let them go. I'll have beans. There's a few that still didn't germinate. But tomatoes are happy. They got blooms. I don't know if there's any little tomatoes yet or not. I don't think there are yet. But I've been keeping them pruned and just growing them up the strings. Peas. We got peas starting here. All through these plants. So they're looking happy. They're still flowering and growing. So here's what radishes look like when they go to seed, in case you're wondering. They actually become quite a tall plant and they flower out. And they send up these big like flower shoots. As you can see, right there's that radish on the bottom. It's kind of huge. It looks like a turnip. But hopefully those will go to seed soon. And I'm sure that these beans that are growing in between them here aren't going to do well. Just going to let them go. See what happens. If they start looking real sick or whatever, I'll pull them out. The rest of these pole beans are growing. I need to prune this cucumber back a little bit here. There's the cucumbers. They're flowering and they're happy. Getting a little bit of yellow on some of the older maturing leaves, which is magnesium. Cucumbers like magnesium, so I'll throw a little extra Epsom salt on those. And more tomatoes. Flowering all down through here, some flowers. So I'm all happy that the beefsteak and the mortgage lifter are still a little, they're still the runts. We'll see what happens. They're looking healthier at least. But they were stressed for quite some time from all the floods that we had. So I lost most of them. Those are the 2 that survived. So we'll just see what happens. They'll probably take off. It might just be a little late. But that's what the Mittlighter garden's looking like. I've got Strawberries trying to come alive back here. I'm getting ready to water these guys. Looks like one right here died, but the rest are green and trying to grow. So we're just going to keep trying to get them to grow and take off. The raspberry plant is looking happy. And that's all good. I need to probably get some mulching around these strawberries soon to help retain the moisture, but I've just been watering them every night for now. And then the winter squash is up here. Yes, I really need to cut my grass, but who knows when that's going to happen. So they're watering right now, soaking down here. But yeah, pumpkins, and I think these are some spaghetti squash, and I think there's a acorn squash and a butternut here maybe. I don't know. I'll see what they are when they start putting fruit on. But they're starting to grow out. It won't be too long till they're like clear out here. And they'll have like leaves, like huge leaves. Crazy, but that's what's going on with the garden. Just thought I'd give you an update. Everything's going as expected for this time of year. Nothing real unexpected has happened. I just, I know how Happy Gardener always gets the tater beetles and has all those problems, but I got them. I treated them. Most of them went away. Now I got aphids. Ladybugs are showing up, and generally when you're really feeding your plants like this and they're getting everything they need, they have pretty good natural defenses to pests. So they've been figuring that out in nature for a long time. So you can see there's probably some leaves that are getting eaten a little bit, little holes. But they generally take a nibble and then they leave. Like, oh, I don't like this plant or something, I don't know. So yeah, the vines just keep falling over in here and growing. That's just kind of what happens with potatoes. I mean, some of those vines probably would reach the top of the T-frames if I picked them up now, because they've fallen over 3 or 4 times, and then they fall over and grow up, and fall over and grow up. So, all right, I'll talk to y'all later. It's time for the prepper.